I know how it is to be with, and I know how it is to be without. We have to find places to park because this is my home right now, and there's nowhere for us to be.
If you see somebody in a car, you're not automatically thinking, oh gee, I wonder if they're homeless.
Could you have ever imagined you'd be here right now?
You can find work.
It's okay. It's
I don't want to be in the car.
Despite the slumping economy, the number of homeless in the United States and North Carolina is almost unchanged since 2009.
According to a recent survey by the National Alliance to End Homelessness, there are nearly 13,000 people in this state without a home. North Carolina did see a major increase in the number of homeless families, up 22%. However, a WRAL investigation found those numbers only tell a portion of the story. Cullen Browder is here to explain. Cullen?
Well, David, you know, keeping a true count of the homeless out there really is tricky. There are those who are tracked in the shelters. There are those who are out on the street. We joined volunteers, in fact, earlier this month trying to document the chronic homeless out there. Tonight, those in between, just kicked out of their homes, searching for work, on the move, the invisible homeless.
I know how it is to be with, and I know how it is to be without.
For Lee Venable and her husband John, this is a time without. Evicted from their Raleigh apartment when they couldn't make rent, the Venables started living in their Mercury Mountaineer SUV. This is day 9.
This is my home right now, and there's nowhere for us to be.
Despite their circumstances, the Venables agreed to let us ride along with them and see their struggles firsthand.
We have been looking for work. You can find work.
It's okay. It's
They stop at the Women's Center of Wake County and tearfully meet Director Gene Williams. Not only have they been evicted, John and Lee face a deadline to get their stuff out of the apartment. If they don't, they lose their belongings.
You know, if you see somebody in a car, you're not automatically thinking, oh gee, I wonder if they're homeless. You know, you think they're just sitting in their car. So I think it's this invisible issue we have around us.
For Williams, it's very visible. She makes a phone call to the landlord.
So there's no alternative I can explore.
And buys the couple a few extra days to clear out the apartment. She also gives them a little gas money. That's helpful because they run out of gas in the parking lot. John usually walks to the nearest gas station, but this time we take him to fill up his often used container. Back at their home on wheels, that fuel gets the engine running again. So now you have a little bit of gas.
Yes.
But you really have no idea where you're going to go right now.
No.
So the Venables venture out.
A lot of times I don't know the name of the street or anything. I'm just somewhere where I feel safe.
They're getting hungry, so John and Lee stop at this Southeast Raleigh park. They munch on leftover chicken wings and water bought with a gift card from the Women's Center. Could you have ever imagined you'd be here right now living in your car?
Never.
Out of work for a year, John recently found a manual labor job. Too late to keep the apartment, his first paycheck went to buy car insurance for their sudden home. He takes the family plight personally.
But I feel less than a man if I can't provide for my family.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the car.
The Venables see no other choice tonight. As the sun goes down, the couple must leave the city park. They head to the local food line, not to shop, to bathe. After working all day, John doesn't have a place to shower, so he washes up in the grocery store sink.
Not being able to feel like a man to provide for your family, you know? Kind of hard to hold your head up.
Food line will soon close, so the Venables scout out a place they've stayed before, a Walmart parking lot. They get out the blankets and settle into their bucket seat beds. Then, as the night begins to quiet, Lee starts singing.
I was thinking it's a beautiful day. I was thinking everything's okay, 'cause I know he watches over me, over me.
How can you sing a song like that when you're having to live in your car?
That song is how I make it.
On this night, John and Lee are thankful for their car and for each other.
If I'ma struggle with her.
Life twists and turns. Life twists and turns. You know, some of the best of us, things happen. They lose jobs. They get laid off. You just never know.
Within a blink of an eye, it could be you too.
'Cause I know he watches over me.
Now, the Venable situation has not gone unnoticed. Led by the Women's Center, volunteers from the Raleigh Rescue Mission, the Healing Place, Passage Home helped to save Lee and John's belongings from the apartment that they lost. They moved into all that stuff into a donated storage unit, and now Triangle Family Services is helping them settle their past debts and find a new apartment. The Venables have made a choice, though, not to go into shelters for now because they want to stay together. In fact, last night, David, in the cold and the snow, they again slept in their SUV in a Raleigh parking lot.
An amazing story, Colin. Thank you.
Now to an incredible response from you.
Incredible because it was generated from an amazing story. Last night at 6, we introduced you to a couple in crisis, evicted from their Raleigh home, living on the streets in their car. You called, you emailed, you posted on WRAL's Facebook page. You had to help, and you did. And tonight, Cullen Browder joins us with an update to this story and a measure of hope for Lee and John Venable. Cullen?
An absolutely humbling response. I tell you, it's incredible. In many ways, the Venables were the invisible homeless, moving from parking lot to parking lot. Lee tells us she slept in a warm bed for the first time in weeks last night because one of our viewers insisted on getting her a motel room. Right now, it's really hard to keep track of all the offers of help out there. It is not hard to see the power of people who care. When our viewers saw John and Lee Venable living in their car, washing up in grocery store bathrooms, sleeping in parking lots, they were moved.
You can find work.
It's okay. It's
No.
And as a result, that hug of desperation turned into this hug of hope. Strangers who paid to get the Venables out of their home on wheels and into a motel for a few nights. Others who offered money, gift cards, even jobs.
It's been a little bit overwhelming, but, you know, a good overwhelming.
Hello, Regina Brooks.
Women's Center caseworker Regina Brooks first told us about the Venables and fielded many of those generous calls.
So we let the public know. And now there's this outpouring of love that's being poured in this, what that was an empty cup.
I'm overwhelmed. It's unbelievable. I just want to thank everybody.
The Venable struggle isn't over.
What are your strengths? What gets you through hard times?
With Lee's husband John now working, Triangle Family Services is helping them secure an apartment. The nonprofit will partner with them to get them back on their feet.
At this point, they're still reacting by gut because they're still putting out those fires. So having kind of that person to kind of normalize things for them really helps.
There are so many more Venables in our community, and start thinking about how they can help.
Advocates hope the Venable story helps put a face on many other families in crisis and helps them find what so many take for granted.
A normal life, yes. Functional.
Isn't that what we all want?
And out the car.
Yes. Yes.
Out of the car. The Venables hope to be in an apartment in the coming days. Until then, our viewers, not wanting attention or credit, paid for another 4 nights at a Raleigh motel. And this is a story we will continue to follow.
She looks so happy and well rested now. But as they were saying, the Venables are just one of many people in this situation.
That's right. The invisible homeless. I mean, we're talking about potentially thousands out there. And the advocates really hope we can raise awareness to get help for those as well. We're working with local agencies who coordinate help for the families like the Venables. To find out how you can be a part of that effort, visit the Here to Help section of our website, WRAL.com.
All right, Colin, thanks so much.
And our conversation will continue this Saturday as we look at how recession-driven budget cuts have made solving these problems even tougher. It's the focus of On the Record. It airs Saturday night at 7 on WRAL television and Sunday morning at 7 on WRAL FM Mix 101.5.
Because this is my home right now. And there's nowhere for us to be.
Kicked out of their home, living in their car right here in the Triangle. Tonight we go on the record with an emotional and eye-opening look at Raleigh's invisible homeless. And in this economy, what, if anything, can be done to help?
It's time to go on the record with WRAL News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I once had a fellow reporter tell me, if we ever do another story on the homeless, it will be fine with me. Let them work like the rest of us. Shocked? You bet I was, until I thought it through. Even those of us who believe ourselves to be compassionate have often never suffered great loss. And sometimes it takes a loss to understand. Sometimes it doesn't. Whatever the case, whether the wounds that led to homelessness are self-inflicted or not, the problems ultimately impact each of us in the community. We're going to focus on this tonight, in particular, people who live in their cars. Yes, in 2012, that does happen. How? What is being done, can be done to help correct this? And if so, who's going to pay for it? Cullen, it took a lot of work to put this together. It took a lot of work to find people who are willing to talk about this.
That's tough. I mean, to find someone who would allow us that kind of access in such a time of struggle was incredible. Plus, you know, we really wanted to find someone in that position, not already in a shelter, not already getting that kind of help, which is a story we see quite a bit. So it did take a long time.
You know, Gene, in our newsroom, often when stories are airing, there's a lot of activity. Two things. You could have heard a pin drop when this piece aired Monday night. There were tears in our newsroom. That's all well and good, but the stories don't end there. There are a lot more people like the Venables. Absolutely. The Venables need solutions that we're going to talk about a little later, but we have to push this out beyond where we are in an emotional and sentimental state.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of Venables out there living in vehicles. They, in some ways, are fortunate they had a vehicle to live in. We have lots of folks who don't have that luxury and are staying in the woods, in camps. People will say some of them are doing it by choice. And I've always said I wouldn't be a good shelter person because I don't want somebody telling me when I get up in the morning and when I can eat. And, you know, so, you know, it's a challenge. These are all human beings, just like you and I, all individuals. And, you know, they make mistakes. I've made mistakes. But as a community, you know, we need to look at it in that bigger picture and not look at each single person.
Why is it so tough, or it appears to be so tough, to get people to look at it that way? I mean, we all have our own needs. People are struggling in this recession. People are trying to sell homes, they're trying to feed their families, they're trying to do whatever they can to get by. And in doing so, it's tough to get the attention to say, we need more assistance here.
Right. Well, I have my theory, and it's my theory. My theory is a lot of people want to believe that they're in the situation because they did something wrong. Because if I believe that, then I believe it won't happen to me. You know, if I'm doing all the right things, then I'll be fine. And so if we can find some nick in that person where they made a bad choice or a bad decision, then it becomes easier for us to say, oh, that's how it happened. That's why it happened.
But you still don't brush them aside.
Well, I don't believe we should, because again, I think we all make bad choices sometimes. But I think the other piece is many of us have support systems. So when we make a bad decision, we have friends, family who come in and kind of help us get past it. For a lot of the families and women we work with, they don't have those support systems. And so when they come into any of the agencies in the community in this work, we oftentimes become that support system for a while.
Cullen, what was it in this piece that we didn't see, that you wish you had had an extra minute or 2 minutes to tell?
Well, I think Gene is getting to it. Life is complicated. I mean, this is an incredibly sympathetic situation, but I mean, they're in love, you know, kissing there, but you know what? When things are bad, sometimes the relationship is bad.
You know, they want to be together. They're not always together. I mean, it's a marriage. You know, those of us who are married, you know, sometimes things are tough even when it's good. So it's not perfect. You know, we only had a certain amount of time to tell a story. Obviously, very emotional, very sympathetic, but you know, people are flawed, and I think that's what Gene is getting to. And we've gotten some of that reaction. If I want to help someone, who's the most deserving? And then you've got to balance, you know, the choices they've made, and I think that's a really, really, really tough debate.
When we come back tonight, we're going to talk with people on the front lines fighting for funds and abilities to help. We'll be right back. Welcome back. After Cullen's report aired Monday evening, literally right after it aired, the phones lit up in the newsroom. People wanted to help, even if only temporarily. The response, humbling. In many ways, the Venables were the invisible homeless, moving from parking lot to parking lot. Lee tells us she slept in a warm bed for the first time in weeks the night after that because a viewer insisted on getting her a motel room. Right now, it's hard to keep track of all the offers for help, but it's not hard to see the power of people who care. With us now, someone who knows the budget of the city of Raleigh quite well, Marianne Baldwin, an at-large member of the Raleigh City Council. Appreciate you being here. Cullen?
You clearly have a tough job because everyone sees a situation like that. We're all sympathetic. We all want to help. A lot of these agencies like Gene's help people like that, but they rely on grants, they rely on government funding in this sort of budget era. How does the city of Raleigh do that?
It's been tough. We've had a loss of sales tax. We've had a loss of revenue due to growth or lack of growth in development. So we're looking at budget shortfalls. Every department in the city has been cut back. I will say, you know, we have a $640 million budget. $500,000 of that goes to human services. That obviously hasn't been cut back. In fact, we've provided money for capital campaigns for the Salvation Army, even in these tough economic times. But when I think about that, I think, geez, that's not nearly enough.
Right, $640 million and $500,000 goes to programs like that. That really doesn't sound like very much.
No, I think philosophically, there has always been a feeling that the city doesn't pay for human services. That's really the county's job. And that is frustrating in and of itself as well, because you see people in need. You know, my background is not, you know, I didn't come up through the city council as a member of the planning commission or anything like that. I came up through human services groups and arts groups. That's who I've worked for, and that's who I've given my time to over the years. So when I see a story like that, I was almost in tears.
You know, since the beginning of time, I think tax is a 4-letter word and not 3-letter word.
Yep.
People don't like to talk about raising taxes. They don't want to talk about raising property taxes. They don't want to raise taxes at any level. None of us really enjoy paying those taxes, but yet we see as these needs have been humanized, where the homeless are concerned, the potential that more money could do.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm sitting here thinking about what could we do, and one of the things that I worked on with Dr. West when he was city council and now in the county commissioners is we looked at the whole issue of gang prevention, and we constantly had people coming in asking for funding with that. We started a collaborative that now has all of these groups who work with gangs and youth working together. And so I'm thinking, first off, is there an opportunity to build some type of collaborative, which often leads to additional funding, because different grants agencies look at something like that and say, wow, everybody's working together, they're working more efficiently. So that might be an opportunity.
Are there votes on the council to do that?
You know, I don't think it takes the votes of the council. I think it takes what it took in the situation with Dr. West was finding all the right players and getting everybody from the county, from the city, from the schools working together. And that's what's happened there. And as a result, they received a grant, the largest ever from the Rex Endowment, for $1.2 million to help build this effort.
Gene's coming out of her seat here. I'm shocked you have strong opinions on all this.
Well, we do have a collaborative, and it's the Raleigh Wake Partnership to End
Right.
Homelessness that's been in place for several years. And so I think there's some fertile territory there to maybe have more dialogue and start looking at how do we do that. We do have someone from the city and the county who serves on the board of that group. So, you know, we sort of have a bit of infrastructure there to start looking in a little more depth of what can we do together. And another frustration of service providers, and in me as a citizen, is this whole, the city doesn't do this and the county does it.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry, but these are all citizens in our community, and I think we have to figure out solutions together.
Are you encouraged? I want to give about 15 seconds here. You leave this table. Are you encouraged differently tonight than you were 7 days ago?
Oh, yes. Yes, and I, you know, when I came in, I even said, thank you so much for doing this story, because I think it has elevated an awareness again. I think people are, they tire of hearing about the homeless and the poor. We get desensitized to it because it's so repeated. And this has given us a chance for a new dialogue.
I have to stop you there. Gene Stevens, thanks for coming in. Cullen Browder, thank you for the work that you did on this and for being here. A reminder again, if you want to help families like the Venables, we're making it easier for you to be part of that effort. Visit Here to Help. It's a section on WRAL.com.
4 months ago, WRAL News brought Raleigh's invisible homeless into the light.
Because this is my home right now.
Monday, a story for those who believe in the human spirit.
Welcome. It's like one big nightmare that's finally over.
Out of life in their car, into a new life full of possibilities.
That's good to be home.
Yes, it is.
Monday at 6 on WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
It's a story that you, the viewers, responded to in an amazing fashion on a local couple living out of their SUV.
Well, now 4 months later, their story takes an incredible turn for the good. WRAL's Cullen Browder is here with a follow-up on the Venables. Cullen?
Well, Deborah, we can say that road to a new home did not come easy. More nights in the SUV, a separation, job loss. They didn't give up, though, and neither did those who offered to help them. Tonight, the Venables are back together with a real place to call home.
We have been looking for work. We can't find work.
When we introduced you to John and Lee Venable back in February, they'd been living in their SUV for 9 days.
This is my home right now, and there's nowhere for us to be.
Evicted from their Raleigh apartment, they ate in parking lots, bathed in grocery store bathrooms, and slept in partially reclined bucket seats. After seeing our story, generous WRAL viewers responded with donations of money and a motel for the Venables. Volunteers helped save their belongings, almost lost in the eviction.
What gets you through hard times?
Triangle Family Services and the Wake Women's Center tried to get the couple back on their feet again. Then, another setback.
Unfortunately, I had left my job, left my wife.
The stress on their relationship put their hope on hold.
We were like ready to kill each other. We were like at each other's throat.
Could you imagine being in a small place confined?
It's all about a team, right? We're part of their team. We can't fix them, they can't fix them, but together, we all can make it work.
Triangle Family Services didn't give up. John came back. He got his manual labor job back. And after many more nights in that SUV, the teamwork paid off with this, moving day.
Welcome. Oh, it's good to see you out of that truck.
Women's Center Director Jean Williams helped the Venables at their lowest point. She was moved watching them unpack in their own Raleigh apartment.
This is the moment, and I'm trying very hard not to let my voice crack. You know that you really work toward when you do this work.
They have simple pleasures again. A kitchen, a shower.
There's a big difference when you can shower, going to church with this.
A closet where John can hang his dress shirt. And instead of that front seat, a bed to stretch out in.
That's good to be home.
Yes, it is.
When days living in their SUV turned into months without a real home, the Venables struggled. But they also dreamed about this day and this apartment.
I have my own key to my own home. and it just makes a big difference. And, you know, these are better keys than car keys. It's still unbelievable, all the people that helped us. I just want to say thank you so much.
And consider what it took to get to this point. WRAL viewer donations, the nonprofits, a willing employer and landlord, even Cardinal Storage in North Raleigh, which donated a place to keep the Venables' stuff. We're going to keep track of their story. Deborah.
So many people came together to help them, and it's so great to tell a happy ending. Thanks, Cullen.